We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk, 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI, 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and now on the Internet on knookmedium.com, serving Richmond, Oakland, and the San Francisco Bay Area. Our guest by phone, one of our favorite guests over the years, Sally Pipes, author of The Truth About Obamacare and the president of the Pacific Research Institute.
And now three more books.
Three other books, yeah.
What's your most current book, Sally, that's just coming out?
It's The Cure. It came out in July, The Cure for Obamacare. It's an Encounter Books out of New York. It's a broadside. It's a booklet, and it's written in a way that politicians will have time to read it because you can read it very quickly in a couple of hours. So it's really designed for people who don't have a lot of time, but they need to get their mind around how do we, if Obamacare is repealed, what is the replacement agenda? Because if you think back to August, when former Speaker Newt Gingrich was speaking at GOPAC in Boston, he made that statement that, the Republicans have no plan for replacement. Well, in fact, the Republicans, there are many replacement plans out there, whether it's Congressman Dr. Tom Price, Senator Tom Coburn, Senator Johnson. There are a lot of Paul Ryan. There are a lot of plans out there. The problem is that the Republicans to date haven't been able to rally around one plan and push it forward. Steve Scalise, the Republican Study Committee came out with a plan a couple of months ago. I agree with a lot of it. There are a couple of things I don't agree with on the MedMal being a federal issue, reform being a federal issue, and also on I support the refundable tax credit. But still, there are a lot of plans out there. But I think it's very important that the Republicans get together with a plan that they can all be behind and they can use it when they're campaigning, because a lot of their constituents are going to be very upset. So that is a book, and it's available on Amazon.com.
Cure for Obamacare. Now, you said it's good for politicians, so does it have a lot of pictures in it so they can understand it?
No, but written in a way that even they can understand.
Okay, good. I don't think they're going to touch the medical mal issue, but that's something that's very important because of of the litigious society we're in. But I want you to the single payer issue. I totally agree with the two of you. I think that's been their intention for years. I mean, before Obama was a senator, he even talked about a single payer program. Can you explain what single payer is to our listeners?
Right. Single payer is there's one payer for your health coverage, and that is the government. So in Canada, the country where I'm from, back in the 70s, the federal government took over the healthcare system, meaning private insurance is outlawed under the federal law. Each of the 10 provinces manages its own healthcare system, but the funds go from the federal government to the provinces. But the issue is that people who support a Medicare for All program, which is really what it is, say, well, if Canada can spend 11.4% of their gross domestic product on health care, and we're spending, close to 18% of our GDP on health care, why can't we spend what Canada spends? Well, the issue is that the Canadian government determines what is going to be spent on health care, i.e. 11% of GDP. And what happens is, though, the demand for health care is much greater, and so, and the supply is less, and so therefore you get waiting lists. So in Canada today, you have long waiting lists for care. Care is rationed. The older you are, the less likely you are to get care. And there's lack of access to the latest treatment and technology. So, MRIs, if you need an MRI, magnetic resonance imaging, if you think you might have a brain tumor or something serious, you'll have to wait, upwards of 4 to 6 months in order to get an MRI. The American people have no concept of what that means, but that's what happens when the government runs your health care. And, the average wait today in Canada from seeing a primary care doctor to getting treatment by a specialist is 17.8 weeks. That's over 4 months. And I think people don't realize, that, waiting times, it's counterproductive because if you're in pain, you can't work. But also if you have a serious illness and you can't get a colonoscopy for a year, you have to be, under 65 because there are too many people on the waiting list, this can be very serious. And so, but this is the kind of program that I think President Obama wants. He said it back in 2003 and 2004. Harry Reid, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, said it this summer, and he's in an interview on PBS that his ultimate goal is to push private insurers out of the market and leave us all in a Medicare for All system. And, Canadians have an an escape valve. A lot of Canadians come to the United States and pay out of pocket for a treatment or procedure that they find the waiting time in Canada is too long. So I say, if we don't repeal and replace Obamacare, if the government, if Congress doesn't, where are the best doctors going to go? Where are we as patients going to go? Because we will face the same issues as in England and Canada and other countries in Europe.
It's scary. We're having a conversation with Sally Pipes, president of the Pacific Research Institute and the author of Truth About Obamacare and the Cure for Obamacare. You know, Sally, you and I have had this conversation before since we're both originally from Canada, but my dad lives in a town about 2 hours east of Vancouver. He needed an MRI and had to wait 6 weeks for the MRI machine to come in. I mean, that's ludicrous. He could have died in that 6-week period. That's
exactly right. And the American people, they just don't realize. I mean, they know when they go to the post office or the DMV that they're going to be in a line, but they haven't connected the fact that the same thing is going to happen if the government is in control of their health care.
You know, Sally, it's unfortunate, but I think in Canada, the majority of the people just have routine medical care, and so they think it's a wonderful program. It's when you get sick that you realize you have a problem. That's what happens in Canada.
And that's why people here say, well, if it's such a terrible system, why do the Canadian people like it? Well, as you just said, you know, unless you need to use the healthcare system for something serious, you think, well, it's fine. I can go to the doctor and, you know, if I have a sore throat or whatever. But when the polls are done in Canada, surveying those people who need a specialist, whether it's for an MRI, for a neurosurgeon, or a oncologist, that's when you see these, the lack of access. And so the poll numbers are very strong against the Canadian healthcare system. And last, and Marty, you know this, Canadians are very nice people. If they're told something, they don't like to stand up and scream and say, well, I just won't put up. That is not something with which I shall put. You know, they're very polite, and so it's a different mentality. And the fourth point is that the Canadian government, in taking over the healthcare system in the 70s, that's a long time ago. So a lot of people in Canada, younger people, don't know any different.
Yeah, that's true. It's a generation that's now used to that system.
You know, the comment, we have to pass it to know what's in it. Well, we've passed it, and now we know what's in it. And now the latest comment, I think it was, enjoy the suck. Have you heard that one from Nancy Pelosi?
No, I haven't.
Oh, that's her newest one, enjoy the suck. I don't know what that means.
I don't either. I did my piece on Forbes.com about a month ago it was entitled, If You Like Your Health Care Plan, Too Bad. And somebody sent me a response. You should have called it, If You Like Your Health Plan, Screw It. So, but, you know, this is this whole thing, his statements, if Nancy Pelosi, we have to pass this bill so we can find out what's in it, which she made 11 days before the bill was signed into law. The issue is that the American people, as we said earlier, are finding out what's in it, and they're very disturbed regardless of political party, because when it's your health and you have a health problem, you're very concerned about what access to what doctors will you have, what access to what hospitals will you have, and if you find that, you know, your access to what you used to have is not available, or that you're going to have to pay face a high deductible and higher premiums, people are going to be outraged.
Well, people need to be outraged because there's no bill in either the Senate or Congress that should be passed without people reading it and discussing it. And this is a prime example of how stupid the Democratic Party was by passing this bill without reading it.
Well, absolutely. It's the first time in the history of our Congress that, you know, the bill was passed without any support from the other party.
Yeah, it's insane. You know, one thing I saw a recent article that said that the majority of doctors will not be taking Obamacare. Have you seen that, Sally?
Right. Well, you know, we have now in this country about 4,000 doctors who are concierge. They're not taking they're not taking insurance.
And growing.
Concierge
doctors are growing.
And then, you know, according to Deloitte Consulting, their 2013 study, 6 in 10 doctors are seriously considering getting out of the practice of medicine because of Obamacare. And then what does this mean for the best and the brightest young people going into medicine? I mean, if they think, you know, they can't practice the type of medicine that they would be trained in, if they can't make the kind of income to cover their costs, we're going to see a downgrade in the type of young people that apply to medical school. And I think there's a growing spontaneous uprising among doctors in California over their upset over Obamacare. This isn't being organized by the Tea Party movement or anyone. It's individual doctors saying, wait a minute, this is not what is in the best interest of my patients or in the best interest of my ability to practice medicine.
I want to give you one prime example before we move on. I was scheduled for surgery in December, and I had to cancel it because I got the flu. And my doctor said she is not scheduling surgery after January 1st because she's not sure if she's going to be in business after January 1st.
Right, and we're going to see more and more of that. One thing I wanted to add, too, is that I don't think, I just think, I don't know why there haven't been some lawsuits brought over the changes that the president is making through administrative fiat rather than going through Congress, because as we said earlier, it was Congress that passed this bill, and yet things like delaying the individual mandate, delaying when you can sign up for health care. Now you have until December 23rd, which was originally October 1st. Now it's December 23rd. Payment doesn't have to be made till December 31st for coverage that would kick in January. All of these things, delaying the individual mandate till March 31st from February 15th. Why aren't suits being brought against the administration over these decisions being made by executive fiat?
That's coming. Sally, we got one more segment with you, so give us a moment here. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.